Hello, the Seattle Overload podcast, the Seahawks podcast. Everyone is watching tonight. Maybe not, but if you are joining this late on the rewatch, thank you very much. We do appreciate you as always. If you're watching live, great to see you in the chat. Monjombo asking, is this the end of my day or the very beginning? Well, it all blurs into one. See, that's the thing. You know, there's like health gurus who are always, they're trying to cheat time, and then the math doesn't really work out, or the maths doesn't really work out. That's kind of how I feel. But I could definitely market it as there are no such things as days. It's all just one. It's just one life.
All social constructs that we use to describe.
Yeah, like
what? I mean, the Earth is spinning.
Well, is it?
That is happening.
Is it? Yeah, we don't want to get
Wait. Do flat earthers think the Earth is fixed? Like, I mean, I understand they think it's flat, but they also
I don't know. Maybe there's like a subdivision. There's like the fixed flat earthers, and then there's the spinning flat earthers.
Are there factions within the flat earthers?
Right. Sects.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's a harmless conspiracy theory because it doesn't have enough weight to like affect society.
Whoa. What?
I mean, they're very much wrong. Yeah, they're not actually harming anyone, are they? Like, it's not. It's like
have you? So no. But I'm gonna try and get the name of the creator. Have you watched the documentary on flat earthers?
I don't think I want to.
No, you do.
I haven't, and I don't really want to know more about them.
No, you do. You do.
I mean, the people that actually think the Earth is flat number in like the dozens. Like there can't be.
I forget the YouTube channel, but I'm gonna try and find. I think it's called "In Search of a Flat Earth." You know what? The person who tweeted about it could have been our friend Seth.
Seth Galina?
Yeah.
BFF Seth?
Yeah. In Search of a Flat Earth by Folding Ideas. That will kind of help you see how flat earthing is kind of damaging. Are you going to watch it?
No, I'm not.
You better watch it.
I'm going to watch Shogun instead. Matty, I actually have a good question for you. Okay. A good preamble topic that
hold on. Let me just say, Benjamin, thank you very much. Good to see you. Ricardo, good to see you. And Jen, good to see you. There you go.
Greetings all.
Corey, there you go. See, Corey, it's a great documentary. There you go. Oh. I'm kind of worried now that people are actually suggesting documentaries which are supporting the theory. If you can call it a theory. Anyway, sorry, Griff, go ahead.
Okay, so when you're washing your hands, let's say you've got like a soap pump, not bar soap.
Yeah, I was doing that just 10 minutes ago.
Nice. Do you wet one hand and then with the dry hand extract the soap or do you wet both hands and then go for the soap?
This is a fantastic question. I actually love this because, they talk about lather, or do you say lather?
I say lather.
Yeah, lather. Yeah. They talk about that, right? Those people. And my issue with hand washing is I will put the soap on dry hands, right? Get that all soapy, turn the tap on, wash my hands, then it just washes off immediately. So then I get more soap, make a lather.
Well, you do soap without any water beforehand?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Matty. No. That's like you're in kindergarten.
It's double clean. I think it means I get through soap twice as often as I should.
You need the water to activate the soap and get it going.
Yeah, see, that's what they told me in science when we were learning about lathers. But I didn't pay attention. So, yeah, and then in terms of the right-left thing, well, obviously there's soap everywhere, so I guess I'm going left over right.
Yeah.
Then right over left.
Yeah.
1 potato, 2 potato, that type of thing.
sometimes 3 potato.
Could be.
See, I was always wet both hands first and then go for the soap. But then I realized that I actually have more success, I think, with one hand receiving the soap and the other hand receiving the initial water and then scrubbing and lathering.
Yeah, so
Because if
that's
your hands
very
get
similar
too
to
wet,
what I do.
right? If your hands get too wet before you apply the soap, then the ratio's off.
Well, and then you're splashing water all on the soap dispenser.
That too.
Your sink's getting dirty. The sink you've cleaned, you've shined it up, and you're just throwing water all over the what do you call? Here's the thing. So you have your basin on a sink, right?
Yeah.
What do you call the
Basin.
top bit?
The
So, you know,
faucet.
No. That's the tap. That's what we call a tap. What do you call like the shelf? You know, some sinks have a shelf where you put your soap dispenser.
I mean, we have the countertop in which the basin sits, and the faucet or tap.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
And sometimes we have like a little compartment or a little shelf, like you said, where you put like a bar soap on, or I don't know, a shelf.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of my sink. We might have different sinks.
Radar sink setups.
Yeah, but
anyway,
let me clean mine first because
this was absolutely riveting. But Matty, the show must go on.
It must.
Without further ado, hit it.
You know, Noigash has just reminded me of something before I hit it. Noigash is saying I don't use water at all, just soap.
Nice.
Buddy, the worst thing is when you're in a toilet, or as you'd say, the washroom, the restroom, the water closet.
Yeah.
And then you go to the tap to wash your hands, and then you spend usually a public one, right? And then you go trying to find the soap, and there's no soap, right? So you're spending forever finding soap. You find the soap, right? Then you start putting the soap on, and then the tap doesn't work. You ever had that?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, hate that.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
Awful.
That's very annoying.
That gets me overloading, you know?
Or like during COVID when like the dispenser's out of soap and you're in public and you're like, oh no. Especially in the very beginning when there was a lot of like the anxiety was at the max and you're like, oh no.
Yeah. You're like, this is curtains. I mean, we shouldn't make light of something which did actually,
I just thought like I'm bringing down the whole ship with me if I go out there without having.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I had an elderly grandmother who was taken care of at one point, and similar thing happened. I was like, oh God, you know, disaster.
Yeah.
I'm a murderer.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do the podcast?
Yep. The hit it's been long overdue.
Yeah, sorry. You did say it. It's just I ignored it. Would you like to say again? Right.
I'm really enjoying Shogun, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. That's good. Well, maybe
for the end. Hit it, man, Matty. Hit the damn button at this point.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where we are continuing our look at the 2024 NFL draft class. Today, we're studying big ends. What does big end mean? We'll explore that. We'll look at what the role is in Mike Macdonald's defense, and then we're going to look at 3 players who fit the mold, take a look at the profile, have a look at the tape. Those players are Brandon Dorlus, Darius Robinson, and Kris Jenkins. Sounds fun, right? But first, and we do have only 2 weeks to the draft, which is kind of crazy. That's very fun. And we also did a mock draft last Sunday, which I was incredibly tired for, and Griff kept saying it's not realistic. So we ended up with, I mean, I was going to post a graphic of the 2 drafts, but I'm terrified to do so because I think it's abysmal. So make sure you check out that episode. Great sell. But first, the Seahawks have returned to, well, some of them have. We don't know the exact percentage, but a lot of them seem to have returned to voluntary workouts at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, the VMAC, with new coach Mike Macdonald. Pete Carroll's basketball hoop is gone. Griff, I liked your tweet on that about Pete Carroll. You know, what was Pete Carroll doing with the basketball hoop?
I just wrote L.
Oh,
you mean the other one?
Searching for it.
No. I said I'm going to break into the VMAC to rescue Pete's basketball hoop from VMAC storage, like when the Roman legionaries discover the golden eagle standard in HBO's Rome, like on the road, and they have to get it back to Rome. I'm going to get it back to Pete where it belongs.
I love that. I didn't realize you were the hero in this.
Always.
I should have known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the grammar of the tweet would insinuate that.
Yeah. Obviously, I read it carefully.
I said smuggling Pete's basketball hoop out of VMAX storage for safekeeping like a lost Roman golden eagle standard. I didn't say standard. I should have included it. Anyway.
Also clever because you said you didn't put I am or I'm going to. You just went with smuggling. You know, there's no real... Don't think you can get done for that.
Well, it's very Twitter posting to remove the pronoun and the auxiliary verb and just go straight into the action verb.
Yes. Well, that's what happens when you have a character limit. Anyway,
yep.
Also at the Seattle Seahawks facility, you had press conferences. You had Julian Love speak, you had Tyler Lockett speak, you had Geno Smith speak, and you had Uchenna Nwosu speak. Griff, kind of a lot of nothing, but did anything of note stand out to you? We are the people who like to read into stuff a bit too much sometimes.
Geno's comments about the offense were interesting. I mean, we know they're going to be using different language verbiage, so like even the same concepts, the different words and everything. But I think that it was interesting that he used the word a lot of volume. Does that mean volume of plays, or does that mean like volume of the way they categorize things? Because McVay is pretty streamlined, or like the McVay tree, and that's by virtue Waldron. Like one word can mean that entire, like NASCAR means dagger out of a certain formation, whatever, and you can have tags and everything. Does this mean like everything is like classic old school West Coast, where it's just like, you know, a laundry list of words and letters and numbers to get the play call in? Is that what he means by volume? I'm not worried about concept diversity and stuff. They'll get there. And he also said the protections are new, but it was an interesting word choice to use, like lots of volume.
Yeah, and I wondered if it's just, you know, you think of how often Grubb's motioning or shifting and the different player doing that, and I just wondered if rather than maybe in an old book you'd have 3 ways of doing that, maybe there's 10, you know. That could be a type of volume. We don't know, but yeah, very, you know, intrigued to see how that all gets picked up on. Now, Nwosu, coming back from pectoral injury, said he was working with the Los Angeles Clippers doctor and thinks he'll be able to practice in a week or 2, I think was what he said. He also made an interesting comment to me when he was talking about the old coaching staff compared to this one. It was fairly unnecessary. Well, not unnecessary. It was insightful and candid in a way that sometimes stands out in press conferences, at least to me. I don't want to read too much into it, but he said that this coaching staff was working hard, almost in comparison to the last one. And I did wonder about, you know, it must have been a frustrating year for him last year, but you also had in 2022 Aaron Curry as a one-and-done outside linebackers coach. I mean, I guess he got a move into the Steelers organization as an inside backers coach, but he ended up leaving. And then this past year, Clint Hurt was the outside linebackers coach and the DC, so not around much. And then you had BT Jordan, who's branded as a pass rush specialist, but maybe the outside backer coaching wasn't up to scratch in Nwosu's eyes. That is, again, we like press conferences because we pass stuff. Obviously, we're interpreting that stuff, but yeah, interesting at least. And yeah, I guess that's all there is to take away other than the basketball hoop being gone. And on that topic, Fats, thank you so much for the continued support and the donation. Fats using the super chat function, which is available on YouTube, to donate $10 and say, Buddy Heist comedy starring Griff and Doug Baldwin stealing back the hoop for Pete Carroll. I don't know why, but I feel like Doug would secretly care a lot about that hoop.
I agree, Fats, and thank you, sir, for your kindness as always.
Doug is a hooper.
Doug's a hooper, and I think Bobby Wagner would too. He brands himself as a very good basketball player, and then a dark horse member to join our little task force is Brian Walters, the old receiver, kick, punt returner. He was a hooper too, and I think he won a lot of the competitions back when he was on the team. So I think he would have a lot of stake in getting that hoop back where it belongs. And once we put it, but no, so we should take it out of VMAX storage and put it back in the auditorium where it was, but then we need to super glue it to the floor, maybe bolt it down so it can't be moved.
Yep.
And then put a note on there like this was for Pete or something. Maybe like Roma Victa to keep with the metaphor.
Well, people in the chat won't know Griff is a hooper. He is.
Am I?
Yep.
Anyway.
Okay. So, I guess Nwosu also said about injury recovery, and then he mentioned, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, how Mike Macdonald, when they first met, he wasn't sure about him, and he wondered if he was nervous. So Nwosu was being honest, so that was nice. And he also said his motivation is being the best player he can be, because he's now in a position where he can financially support his family. And really, with what he was doing last year before he got hurt for the season in week 6, he was the Seahawks' best defensive player, and it kind of collapsed with him out. He was such a good run defensive end.
Edge. He's played his best football in Seattle the last 2 years. He's been a great football player.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, not only is his motivation to be the best player, but he's really kind of, that's showing. Like, he is really getting better and better and better.
Yep.
Fats mentioning in the chat, I think it's odd how little we've heard from Mike Macdonald. I don't necessarily think so, Fats. I think it's definitely strange compared to the previous regime where Pete Carroll was always talking to the media. But that is because he was the president of football operations. Now John Schneider's that. It's kind of John Schneider's time, first-time head coach, young guy. Macdonald still made multiple media appearances. It's just Schneider seems to be the guy who's going to appear more to the media because of his role, his title. That's the type of stuff which comes with it. And if you look across the league, I think quite a few teams have a fairly similar setup to that. I don't know how the... Be interesting how the Ravens do it, actually. How often does DeCosta speak to the media versus Harbaugh? But come season, come football, you're going to hear from Macdonald once a week. So maybe, well, not once a week, probably 3 times a week, right?
We would hear from Pete 4 times a week, wouldn't we? Post-game.
Yeah,
Monday,
and I guess that's going to be Schneider now. But then
Wednesday,
also,
Friday.
It'll be interesting because Schneider did pre-game shows, which I never got to catch. And then Pete would do post-game shows.
And how much were Pete's comments like, or his frequent appearances, like him just like enjoying being behind a mic? Well, it could also have been contracted with local media. I know that was part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Anyway, Macdonald's going to talk bull, so he can't help but not talk X's and O's and stuff. So hopefully we get more of him.
Yep. And
maybe he can eviscerate someone for not noticing that they've been running bare fronts for the last 3 years, and that there's been a 3-4 element to the defense.
Well, hold on a second. Everything that the Seahawks do now is going to be new, as never happened before.
Oh, brother. I cannot wait. Why didn't the Seahawks use AA gap mugged pressures?
Everything's going to be creative and chaotic.
Yeah.
but also sound.
We've been accused, and I've seen it in a forum or two. I've been accused of being more negative now.
Have you?
Yeah. And apparently it's because I met Pete Carroll in London, and that's why. Don't know
Is it
why he was in London. Yeah.
you have a bias. You're biased.
Yeah.
You're
My
not
bias.
biased.
Yeah.
You're biased.
Yeah. But kind of on that subject, Griff, before we look at these big ends, just general state of play, I guess it's worth revisiting just with how we feel about Seattle right now. I think everyone will say this, right? But we're always going to try and be objective, call it how we see it. But, I'd try and be the word I can never pronounce, especially at 3:33 a.m. Add some nuance to the discussion, and come at it with our, obviously we've got football knowledge in terms of the X's and O's, and we watch the Seahawks just like all of our listeners. But I do feel more negative about the team than I did last year, and in many ways my optimism was proved unfounded last year. The coaching just completely, you could say on both sides of the ball, just didn't come up to scratch, and this year maybe I'm wrong on feeling slightly negative, but I don't feel massively negative. Like it's like we've said every time, but with both. Macdonald was the obvious guy that we wanted with defensive guys first and foremost, and he's the hot shot guy, so it'll be really interesting to see how it works out. It's just it looks like a tough challenge right now for him in year one, but it's kind of more of recalibration for me of you've been in so many years of always compete, and maybe they didn't win a playoff game in quite a while, but they were they were always going for it. You could always see that they were trying to fill a hole. It's just unfamiliar territory having the weak parts on the roster that they do, I would suggest, and then also kind of a vibe that, hey, maybe this isn't the year, but maybe next year is the year. It's new territory, and in a way that's exciting.
My negativity is only relative, and it's very much specific to 2024's chances, not to the whole big picture here. They signed him to a 6-year deal. I'm very optimistic about all the possibilities of the Macdonald tenure. I think they can be a contender eventually. Last year, they felt like they should have won 12, 13 games. That was I think that was our projection in the preseason was 11, 12, 13. And then as the season went on, they totally could have won 13 games, 12, 11. Like it was very much within their grasp. And they ended up underperforming. Right now, this team feels like a 9-win team with the defensive roster, in my opinion, having regressed. But again, it's the theory behind the regression is it's in a long-term investment, right? Like it's setting you up for the future. I get it, but they have to still succeed on that. So, and I think they know that the roster superficially isn't as good as it was last year, barring a miracle draft, which isn't impossible. Miracle drafts happen every so often. They can still have a good draft, even if it's not a miracle draft. On the offensive side of the ball, well, if they can clear up the guard situation, I think the offense can be good enough to carry no matter how bad the defense is. I mean, the offense almost did that last year already. If they simply could keep their tackles healthy, the offense probably could have been enough to get them 11 wins, even with the defense they had. So, I mean, maybe the same thing can be applied here where, with the roster regress, but Macdonald being an expert defensive coach, maybe they have an average defense. I think that would speak really well of Macdonald. And if they simply have, there are 2 young tackles that they drafted to be their tackles, stay healthy, and they get a competent guard or 2, then they could, I don't know, the offense could be top 5, the offense could be top 7. And how many games can you win with, say, the 7th best offense and an average defense? I mean, you can go far theoretically, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, but yeah, it's the negativity is only relative. It's very much a relative thing. It's not like an absolute thing. Open-minded for whatever this team can do, and we still have to see how the draft goes, and we're gonna take the results into the draft and then assess accordingly, right? So,
No, speak for yourself.
Who knows? We might feel extremely optimistic after the draft and go, you know what? Screw it. Full send. They're going to win 11, 12 games this year. Or maybe we feel like, wow, they really didn't get better. Well, we just have to wait to see what happens. But we're just going to describe what we think happens. So
it is funny because end record and, just end like basic raw stats from last year, the feeling from the preseason to the end of the season, right, is that they massively underperformed. So this year, fan base expectations, well, I'd be interested hearing from you guys in the chat and the comments. Like, what are you expecting from the team this year in terms of their final record? When Macdonald was hired, I imagine people were expecting at least a playoff appearance and maybe even a playoff win, right? I know it's his first year and he's a first-time head coach, but just with the talent that people felt was on the roster in the previous year and the expectations which were massively kind of not lived up to, right? Now, with what's happened in free agency, maybe some of the contracts and the restructuring, the cap situation, maybe people are a bit less optimistic. And I know some people view Geno Smith as a quarterback a bit differently to how we do. But yeah, I mean, let us know, because I'm fascinated by what is the fan base kind of vibe here. And yeah, Misfit, I understand that about the record not really mattering this year. Yeah. Okay. So, big ends. Big ends. Now, in the 2024 NFL Draft, there are some big ends. But first, before we look at them, what is a big end? Well, in Mike Macdonald's defensive front, he used a number of players up front on the D-line. But one player really stood out to me when watching their defense back, and that was Brent Urban. That seems like a very weird name to pick out, because he only played 24.2% of the snaps. And he's not really that type of marquee type of addition in terms of, he was a fourth-round pick in the 2014 NFL Draft. He'd been in Tennessee, then Chicago, then Dallas before re-signing with Baltimore in 2022 on a very, minimal contract. He even was released in final roster cuts in 2022 before being re-signed in February 2023. So he's really not that kind of splashy player. Yet, on their defense, he was 6'7" with 34.25-inch arms. And because he's this kind of 32-year-old vet, he was 31 at the time of the season. But because that's not even correct, he was 32 the whole season. But because of all of that stuff, he filled a really important role for Macdonald's defense, and that was this big end role. Now, I don't know if Macdonald actually calls it that. I think he just calls it as the end, right, in the defense. It's a 3-4, but basically, Macdonald's mainly going to run under type fronts. It's going to look like under with the 3 technique going away from the tight end. This big end type is a bit like Red Bryant was back in the day in Seattle, where he's going to play on the tight end side of the formation to the B-gap bubble, where there's no 3 tech, so the B-gap is open on that side, the strong side of the formation. And this guy is going to play on the tackle and kind of 2-gap on a tackle and cause real problems on the tackle and kind of shrink that B-gap. And Urban was the guy who they used whenever he's on the field, he was doing that. Or if they were struggling to fit the run against the Rams and that base under stuff, they only ran 21% of their snaps. So again, Urban only on the field for 24% of the total snaps. They're only running under for 21% of their snaps anyway. There's nickel, right? But Macdonald has a nickel front, which has the edge. Rather than playing like a wide 9 all the way out on the edge, he plays him head up on the tight end if they're getting certain types of run concepts. And again, when Urban got on the field in nickel, which, as I've said, wasn't too often, but he was used, like, say, the Rams game when they're having real run-stopping difficulties, as this type of dude who can play head up on a tight end. So it's a very important role for the kind of run defense perspective for Macdonald. Griff, anything to add on that?
No, I agree. It's a player that has to, like you said, has to be able to play edge and 3 technique and 4-eye. So basically a utility B-gap, C-gap player. And the types of athletes that can do that, where you can be stout enough to provide an anchor in the B-gap, where you're playing 4-eye and you're two gapping on a tackle and stuff, and you're functioning like a defensive tackle essentially, but then also mobile enough to survive on the edge and play in space, and ideally actually provide some pass rush juice so that you're not hurting your team's pass rush when you are playing true edge. You got those body types are rare, and that's kind of where you get into the tweener world. But then there's also the flip side of the tweener coin is the versatile coin. So sometimes you find a guy, it's like, is he a tweener or is he versatile? It's hard to decipher that sometimes. And it's really, really easy when Michael Bennett exists, but he's a unicorn. Mike Morris, like you said, he can be this, he was this. But then also it's like, to what degree? I don't think they need to go out of their way to find this archetype of player who is also a huge impact player. They can be a role player. You can lean on your 3 technique to be the big time guy and your nose tackle or your edges if you want. And that can be said for just about any position on the roster. Not any one archetype that he's looking for has to be the guy. You just want a baseline of competence, but someone's going to have to be carrying the load, right? Someone's got to be able to provide impact. It's just not any given guy has to, but someone has to. So, and as we look in, as far as draft strategy goes, just take, when it's time, like, hey, we need to draft defensive line, just take the best player available. Whether edge or big end or true 3 technique or true nose. And the other thing is there's going to be some of the big end spectrum that are going to be closer to the true 3 tech side of things. Then there are going to be some guys on the big end spectrum that are closer to the true edge side of things, right? Like, so you can meet in the middle there. So like, they don't need to like force anything here. Anyway.
Yeah, they don't need to force anything, but it'll be interesting to see what type of prospects they come up with. And it just stood out to me how, and it's, it does also speak to Macdonald finding a role for each of the players that he was given in Baltimore without their, putting them in good spots for their skill set. But it stood out to me how Urban was basically exclusively used as a 6, like in the nickel front, which they call flex, or in the 4-eye 4 tech world of base. He didn't play that 3 technique role that Griff was describing, that or very rarely played it. So that's kind of the need for it. Now, on Seattle's roster right now, don't get me wrong, there are players who can play like a 4-eye. As Griff mentioned, there's Morris. Jaron Reed has it in his past. Leonard Williams could do it, and it's kind of telling how Schneider said he can play anywhere from 0 to 5. But really, in terms of like skill set, you just want a guy who's comfortable to be able to 2-gap, and you want to be able to be good at 2-gapping. Really, it's about kind of well, Griff, what do you think? What's the difference between a 2-gapping skill set compared to 1-gapping? Because length is always useful, whatever you're doing, but
well, it's funny because 2-gapping in the A gaps is different than 2-gapping at the.
Well, yeah, forget that. The 2-gapping, like 4-eye /
length is important. What makes one of those guys good is what would make any defensive tackle good. You can drop your hips. You can play with good leverage, technique, strength, power. You can get off blocks. I think the reason why a lot of big ends are on the taller end of the spectrum is not because you need to be tall, but it's more so that's where tall players go on the defensive line because the tackles are taller on average. So if you're a 6'5" guy and you naturally have a high pad level, even if you drop your hips, it just makes more sense for you to play on the outside. That doesn't mean a 6'2", 285 guy who's really squatty and powerful and flexible can't do it. So I think sometimes we look at big ends and go, oh, we need height. It's really the other way around. It's just you don't need height. It's just that's where the tall players have to play.
Yep.
And the good ones can do it. So that's why Kris Jenkins is, what is he, 6'3", 6'4". Mike Morris is, if Mike Morris is 300 pounds at 6'6", where are you going to play him? You're not going to play him at nose tackle. Although ironically, he actually played some nose tackle last year and looked kind of good doing it. But
Yeah.
you see my point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the other point to this is two gapping is inherently more reactive. You're looking to kind of catch the guy in front of you off his first step. You're mirroring him with your footwork and your hands, and so that kind of reactive nature rather than it's kind of just looking at the feet of the guy and seeing what he's comfortable with. But it's not obviously get off's always preferable. You want to get off the football, but it's more about being stout and being able to hold your ground when you catch the guy rather than stepping towards him and knocking him back. Obviously, you still need good knockback. You need to be able to lock out and peek and control that block. But, yeah. So, that's kind of stuff that we'll be looking for on the tape. Griff, do you want to look at Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon, Darius Robinson out of Mizzou, or Kris Jenkins out of Michigan first?
I vote Dorlus. I have him at the top of that group, and I think Matty, you might disagree, but as I watched more of Darius, he's very close behind. I think Dorlus is more of a closer to the true defensive tackle end of the spectrum, and Darius is a little more of a truly versatile guy. As a pass rusher, I don't see as much juice like rushing guards from Darius, but then like when he's playing 4-eye in a mint front or a tight front, he can actually bull rush to expand to the tackle and then work inside, and that's really impressive. So there's potential there with him as a 3-tech rusher. I think Dorlus can rotate in and out as a big end and a true 3 technique. There are run defense reservations. The technique needs to be cleaned up there, but I don't think he's lacking traits for it.
Okay.
I think he could take to coaching. But Darius Robinson is really intriguing in terms of being able to live in different fronts with the same personnel, because I think he can actually function like a true 4-down defensive end, and they can actually function as a 3-tech 4-eye run defender. So
interesting. Now he's a 5th-year senior who's basically going to turn. No, he is 23. Okay, he is 23. American dates always confuse me.
Because we do the month first.
Yeah, it's really throws me. I'm like, there's not 22 months. So it's the 22nd of March. That's kind of how you had to read it. Anyway,
It's Dorlus. Unless you want to do someone else, I don't care.
Yeah. So, do you want to watch his Senior Bowl, Griff, or do you? Well, actually, let's watch his Senior Bowl because that's kind of what didn't really sell me on him. So, and then maybe we can discuss him as a player. Here's his RAS from the excellent Kentley Platt Math Bomb, where he had a pretty good testing. He didn't do the agility stuff. I don't think he'd have done very well at that based on what I saw.
Agreed.
But you can see his arms are over 33 inches, like tick. He's 283 pounds, which that kind of classic big end type weight where you could get a bit heavier. They may slim down a bit for the testing. Then a 1.71 second 10-yard split. I've seen that higher. I've seen that at 1.68. We're splitting hairs here, but you can see that that's a decent thing. Yeah, this is reported at the Combine as 1.68 seconds via NFL.com and Dane Brugler's The Beast draft guide. So anyway, and then a 9'3" broad jump and a 30.5" vertical. So it's really solid testing. Now, it was interesting watching how Oregon used him kind of as a 2-point and then in inside as well. Let me just close that and then get to the tape here. Monjombo with Marshawn Nealand. That's a name, Griff, in terms of the rest of the class. I thought he was just an outside backer who's really big and wouldn't like has no reps inside, so it's just a difficult projection. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I agree. He's more of just a bigger bodied edge.
Okay.
Maybe on pure pass downs he could play inside, but I don't think for run purposes we'd see much of that.
Yep. Let me get a better angle here. 1 second. Apologies for the delay here. Where? Ah, it was literally right next to it. There you go. 50-11, we haven't done positions for Seattle to prioritize in a bit, but I mean it's so obvious, right? In terms of their draft needs. Let me get rid of pop that on, get rid of that, right? So first up, Griff. So his main, I mean, there's the spin move, but his main move is speed to power, right? Like he's gonna get speed and then try and rush you down the chest.
Yeah, he's primarily a bull rusher.
Well, he keeps trying this spin.
Yeah, I think because he knows he has a two-way go.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to show some pizzazz. I don't recall the spin move ever working for him at Oregon. So,
No, I don't remember that at all. It is interesting how at the Senior Bowl they have guys try different things, right?
Yeah.
I don't know whether the coaches like have a word with them and say we'd like to see this, or if they just decide, hey, I'm going to try something to show off here.
Right.
And it must be so difficult for them as well because they're away from their usual coaching staff, the positional coaches, the environment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also been out of football for about a month, some of them. So like, have they picked up bad habits or have they forgotten some things they'd learned? I thought we were going to get a 2-point rep there, but maybe not. Well, that wasn't great. And where do you have Dorlus slotted to go, Griff?
I think he'll be a mid-late second rounder. He's been productive for a long time. I remember watching Kayvon Thibodeau. He was making a lot happen. So there you go. So there, for our audience listeners, he finally gets his spin move to work. The guard jump sets him, and you can see how getting his hands on him, he keeps his base. He doesn't lose his balance. His contact balance is pretty good, which speaks to his play strength and general power. Although I still
really powerful.
I still think spin moves in a drill are like to be ignored for the most part, but it still demonstrates some traits. Like it doesn't mean the spin move is translatable, but the reason why the spin move works could be translatable.
Sure. He's really trying to jump the snap.
Yeah.
Second time now.
He does come off the ball well, and that's a lot of it's probably snap jumping.
Which is nice because when we look at Darius Robinson, I was actually a bit concerned about his get off just from like a snap jumping perspective.
Yeah.
So thoughts here, Griff?
Stutter step into a bull rush, then he tries to rip inside, and that gets ridden off pretty well.
Yeah, the guard set isn't really for that, is it?
Yeah.
He's square.
That was an interesting choice. I would think he would keep trying to bull
Yeah.
because it was working. What he
You got
does
good
do is
box back.
he bull rushes. He goes 2 hands to 1 a lot. So he tries to turn into a long move, and he'll just keep walking guards back into the quarterback's lap. So maybe he just wants to show his bag because he does get off blocks well also.
Yep.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe there's just a wrong
Like
choice
there.
there.
That's a good example of how he can go 2-1 and still push the guy back, right?
Yeah, because what's cool here is he doesn't connect initially. Like he gets stalled, but then he can get into his strength still. So the momentum is not on his side. He comes out late and misses his hands, and then he's still able to work the guy. So that kind of shows the traits there. Like the bull rush is real. Like he has it's a legit foundation. He's good at it.
Yep. And when we looked at Ruke Ororo, we've kept pointing out how he stops his feet and the really kind of big steps here, the choppy steps on the contact and getting the feet in the ground is kind of what helps that ball work. So, okay, this is worthless. I don't actually understand why. I get you want to see guys run exchange games, but when they haven't really worked together before, you've got no chemistry. What is actually? I guess they're kind of trying to install it for the game, maybe.
Yeah.
But
and maybe they just want to give them things to do to see how they respond to it because
I guess
they're scouting here. They want to know how people respond to that.
So that's Dominic Pooney he's up against.
Kind of, it takes a while. The ball would be out normally, but it does show how he gets off the block.
Yep.
Although it's a little messy.
Yeah, kind of misses with his hand placement, right?
Yeah.
That's a good look at his get off and speed off the ball. Nice angle.
Yep.
So, did you see much in the way of counters from him, Griff?
Yeah. I mean, I did. I saw a lot at Oregon.
Okay.
And we're not seeing much here. Like off of his bull, he can go snatch pull, or like a push pull, swim move or arm over. He can kind of club arm over, and then he'll club rip or just simply rip off of it. Because what he does is with his long arm, he gets separation, and then he thinks he can do whatever he wants. Sometimes he'll just bull rush off and then just laterally move around the guy, kind of.
Nice. So what concerned me, and it's with the context of you're removed from your defensive scheme, and you're removed from your defensive game planning, so you don't have like the pre-snap tells and indicators to help you play. You're also playing in a defense where is beyond basic, and just like it is for the offense, but there's so many things in this environment which aren't conducive, especially to playing the run well. But I was just concerned at how he attacked lateral type of blocks. Like he just seems so slow on like wide type runs. So
yeah,
and just bad, like just straight up bad.
Yeah, that's not a good rep.
Now, pretty much every rep looks kind of like this.
Oh, look at that bad linebacker robot rep. Who's 3? Or was the
3.
previous play? No, it was the previous. Oh, no, 27.
Yeah, that's a Notre Dame guy, but not I've lost it, haven't I? Sorry. 34.
I'm completely
Oh,
lost.
it could be your boy Peyton Wilson, Griff. Coverage linebacker, by the way.
Yeah, there was another rep. There was another boot.
The
It
first
wasn't.
one?
Yeah,
No, I think it's this one you're talking about, Griff.
I saw some. Okay. All right. So I was looking at the corner the whole time. Huh. I thought I saw something. I'm crazy. Anyway.
Playing 5-tech again. What was also frustrating about this is the national team, they were playing like under and playing guys 5-tech. And then the American team, they don't really do that. So you don't get to see Darius Robinson, who we'll look at, play as much of that. Again, terrible pad level.
Yeah, totally.
Very similar rep to what we just saw.
It makes me want to go back and watch Oregon versus Stretch. Oregon against UW isn't getting a lot of
Oh, this is the rep, Griff.
Okay, yeah, that's what I saw. Who is that?
It's 27 Notre Dame. Do you want me to get the number?
Is that Bertrand Russell? Not Bertrand Russell.
I don't know who that is.
That's a philosopher.
J.D. Bertrand.
J.D. Bertrand.
Oh no, I don't want to crop
hilarious.
It. How do I get rid of that?
Yeah, it's J.D. Bertrand. So I mean, he's a good football player, and it's just a tough rep. But I'm not going to put too much stock into it. But I'm just saying, bad linebacker play.
This is what I found with Dorlus. Anything tight, like tight combo, tight one-on-one base block, he's really good. Like he'll lock out, he'll win the rep, he'll win his gap. But anything wide, and it got me concerned. And then I went back to watch the Washington game, which I mean we could put on if we're doing a deep dive, maybe if the Seahawks draft him. And the Washington game's the same story. Anything tight is nice, but anything wide is and why this matters more than say if we're talking like a pass rush guy on the edge, or even like a Michael Hallward's 3-tech, where Griff was pointing out his inconsistent run D at times, is one, he's a fifth-year senior, he's 23, but two, as a big end and the type of role I was talking about, you're kind of getting on the field as much as possible, and for you to be able to do that, you have to play well against the run. Thinking back to what I was saying about Urban.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this is day one. So
I think against stretch, Matty, and combos, you're right. He doesn't play super low, and he's just giving up too much surface area to the second blocker, to his pressure key, right?
Yeah.
Or at least the second guy in the combo or duo, or double rather. So
again, really nice rep here against
that's good.
A gap base block sort of thing. And the other thing is Oregon moved their front quite a bit. So kind of similar to Cam Young last year coming out of Mississippi State, where they moved their front so much. I think Oregon, when they got wide runs, often the front's moving. So how much he's actually had to practice this technique, how rusty he is at it as well, against the wide stuff, I wondered about that.
I remember him getting turned on the backside as well. Like the backside of outside zone.
Right. And then it's how much of that is taught? You'd like to see him cross face here, right? He's in a good position now. Let's cross face. We've got the pull.
Yeah. Yep. It makes you wonder what issues Brent Urban did or didn't have initially, and what issues he does or doesn't have right now, given how tall he is.
Right, and how he bounced around the league. Yeah, we should say, obviously, I think I mentioned it, but Dorlus 6'3", not a 6'7" guy, but
Right. But
So
he's
do you just want to keep watching more run defense, or do you want to watch some pass rush stuff, more pass rush settings?
I think we got a snapshot of his weaknesses for
Yeah.
this game anyway. If you want us, if we'd like to see some live pass rush reps, we should go there, I think.
So this is day 2, playing against what they call drop back.
You see him attempt a counter club,
Yeah.
and then he kind of tries to work into a bull rush, then he abandons the bull rush and then just gets his hands up.
I mean, he could have just had a bad, a bad few days. It was funny then going back to the Washington game and me going, yeah, the weaknesses are still like kind of a thing. That's quite a similar rep, really.
Yeah. And for the chat, he's the left 3 technique on the right guard.
Oh, sorry.
Or was.
Oh, I'll go back to that. Yeah, when I skip through all this footage, I'm just looking for the green helmet, which is annoying because there's a Baylor guy, but it's a darker green Baylor.
So
now he's probably to the center slide, right?
Yeah. He gets the slide, so not much to do there.
Now he's a 3.
Who's the quarterback?
Is that Rattler?
I was just going to say, I liked what he did on the previous rep.
Okay, why do you like this from Spencer Rattler?
Well, let me get another look at it. He's playing quarterback. He's anticipating the linebackers drift dropping back underneath.
He's banging it inside this window.
Yeah.
If you're Bertrand Russell.
He's playing quarterback. He knows pressure's coming off the right edge. He's staying calm.
But Griff, doesn't he miss this throw?
I don't know. Why is maybe he does, but he puts it in front of the backer. It's interesting to maybe he needed to put it just inside the hash.
That's a chemistry thing.
Yeah, chemistry thing. Still a catchable ball.
Yep.
Anyway, he's playing quarterback. He's actually playing the position. That's why it stood out to me. Which I thought going into Rattler's tape, there would be a lot of like abandoning the play, but he's actually, I'd put him 3rd in terms of pure process of all these guys. Maybe 4th after McCarthy, but McCarthy doesn't have enough volume to really feel comfortable.
Oh, that would scare. I'm so glad I'm not a GM.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want a little more confident Jimmy G, by all means, but I'm not taking that in the first. Like, let those guys go in the second round, Anyway.
Right.
Do you recall, is there a good bull rush rep for Dorlus in the Senior Bowl?
No, I don't think so. Which was the other thing, because you kind of saw it in the one-on-ones, but it was the other thing to me. It's like, okay, he's standing guys up when it's tight runs. The wide runs is obviously going to be a thing which we're going to have to coach. Where's the bull rush popping? And it just didn't really.
Yeah.
That's that. I think that's his one win, where he gets a real bad. This guy, he had a tough practice. Dorlus kind of had the beating of him. I don't know. Is that the Illinois dude?
Yeah,
that's Adams, or is it Win? Let me get his name. Isaiah Adams, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one off the snap. Also understanding
angles.
Yeah, understanding the protection.
Center's gone away. Yeah.
So sets up the guard he presses outside and then club
Yeah,
swim.
and I think chat noticed the center has a little point here of where they're sliding to this guy's the mic, meaning Dorlus is one-on-one. I think he notices that. I mean, good football players should. But you may think, oh, they won't do that in the NFL. Well, actually, part of the reason that Seattle's so good, or was so good on defense, is the noise, and you're forced for the center to point out the mic. The mic point's always a thing in football. So as soon as you get the mic point away from you, you know you're one-on-one as a D tackle, and this is a good way of working that one-on-one from Dorlus. But yeah, Isaiah Adams was meant to be highly rated, I thought. We might not be able to get to Jenkins, Griff.
That's fine. Do we just want to move on to Darius?
I just wanted to see a bull rush pop, but it just didn't happen for him.
That's an interesting rep on the combo.
Yeah.
So
playing like a heavy 3, a heavy 2.
Or 2i, so he actually gets reached. That's actually not good.
No, it's not.
What is he doing?
I don't know. I guess trying to take a shot because it's goal line, but
yeah. Okay, well, if we're trying to win anyone over with this, the Senior Bowl is not a good showing for Mr. Dorlus.
Yeah, so explain to me why you're not like, oh, we can't be. Yeah, just kind of summarize what the positives are of his game again, real quick.
I mean, based off of the games he played, like his actual tape, and not Senior Bowl, because I didn't watch Senior Bowl till now.
Yeah.
I think. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say he could establish his bull rush more in those games, right?
Yeah. I mean, he wins a lot with his bull rush, basically, and I think that he's simply just has enough traits to survive in the run game in college. I definitely agree that he's a high player. He gets turned out a little bit out of his gap on the backside of zone. I think that's always going to be a thing for him, but I think he can make that work. I mean, the play strength is there for the same reasons his bull rush is good. Mm-hmm. I mean, like the one-on-one reps in the run game are fine. So I don't know. It's I'd be content with him day 2. I don't want him to be the second player they take. I'd prefer him to be like the third player they take, and I don't want to take him at the expense of Michael Hall. I would take him over Kris Jenkins. I'd be fine if they take Darius Robinson over him. I'm not going to sweat it.
Yeah.
All
right. So let's talk about Darius Robinson. So he's more of like an outside guy, right, Griff? Like he's more like he might even get labeled in the draft circles as like a 4-3 end. I'm amazed that he came in at the combine. Let me just get that up on the screen. But I'm amazed he's 285 pounds because he's so long and like lean looking. Like he could put on way more weight. And at Mizzou, he was mainly used on the edge of the defense, so I didn't see many defense tackle reps. I watched 3 games. I don't think I saw any defense tackle reps actually. Maybe occasionally 4i, but never like 3-tech in a 4-front, So why is he a big end? Well, he's 285 pounds, as I've just said. He's 6'5", and he's got 34.5-inch long arms. And just the way he strikes guys, the way he rushes, I think that's more. If you're going to try and flirt with him on the inside, wow, that's a sentence. If you're going to think about playing him to the inside, I think that type of length is really useful, and I think he has the kind of traits to 2-gap as we'll probably see on the tape. Also, 35-inch vert, 9'3" broad, and a 1.73 seconds 10-yard split. Let me just check that is agreed with by the Beast, because obviously there was a discrepancy earlier between Math Bomb and the NFL thing. Math Bomb usually excellent, of course. He's also a 5-year senior. Yeah, he did have that 10-yard split. Now, his agility, I haven't got the accurate thing. His agility testing was awful. He had a 4.76 seconds short shuttle and a 7.87 seconds three cone, which is really bad. But he
Yeah.
is that kind of tall, long, lean guy. He doesn't have high hips. I actually
No.
think when he strikes guys, he lowers his hips well. It's just how is he going to corner? He's very kind of... Yeah,
The
go ahead, Griff.
So yeah, speaking to the three cone, I think his three cone was slow is just because his body is moving slowly. It's not because he's stiff per se.
Yeah.
Like he's fluid. He's fluid. It's that dimension of athleticism that's hard to measure, but you can see it though. You can observe it, but it's hard to measure it. It definitely aids him. Like he's a fluid mover, you know. He's smooth. Like he can run a curved line and look good doing it. He just isn't necessarily doing it fast. Whereas some guys are like, you can tell for their body, just the way their body is shaped and everything. It's just uncomfortable for them.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. One-on-ones. First day of practice for the American team going up against... I'm completely blanking on the... Is that Guyton?
Oklahoma. Guyton's Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's Guyton.
So a good matchup because that's a 6'7" guy with over 34-inch long arms. That's kind of your point about the... Yeah, it's kind of your point about the three cone, right?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't choppy. Like he has his feet under him here. So he bull rushes, then he decides to kind of arm over.
Yeah.
And get back to it. I don't know if I don't know if I'd call this a win necessarily, but he does get around the guy 8-9 yards. The quarterback is patting the ball and holds it. You know, he's at least pressuring him. Maybe you call this a win, but you see the traits. Like this is.
Yeah, traitsy rush. Now, one thing which really stood out to me was his, you kind of spoke to it, of him reacting to it, is he kind of reacted to how he was rushing really well. It stood out to me, like, you know, he'd go with the ball and then he'd add a move in based off how the guard was, or the tackle was playing him, right? So now here he's playing three. And the kind of other take I have off his Senior Bowl, now this is up against Brandon Coleman, who tested amazing. Again, 34-inch long arms, so a long guy. This guard, not so he's, you know, Robinson generally is going to be like longer than a lot of guys, but here he had his match in the Senior Bowl. Yeah, one thing on his tape against, I watched him against Florida. It really stood out to me is his get off was like he just wasn't snap jumping. Now some of that could be coached, but I doubt it. I just think he was poor timing up his get off. Whether you can learn that, I think you can definitely improve on that. But I think in the Senior Bowl, he's really benefited from more predictable cadence and just snap. And so then generally, there's a few reps where it was lacking, but generally, he's getting off the ball quicker. So, and then it kind of obviously unlocks the rest of his game. Griff, your favorite move here in the drill, his spin move?
Yeah. So yeah, the failed cross chop, he's way too high. I mean, he just misses with his hands.
Yeah.
A little awkward for him. But his ability to gather himself again just shows his movement skills. Like it's another case of put a basketball in his hand and watch him like do stuff. He would look pretty fluid, much more fluid than Dorlus, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I like even just that move there.
Yeah, like he even though he gets kind of brought to the ground, when he gets to the corner, his ability to get low, and he ends up losing his balance, but he'll have reps where he'll keep his balance and reduce like that. It's a movement skill. I like to see him hit a cross chop though. He's just late. And I don't know if cross chop is the move he should be using either.
You know, baseball per per Dame Brugler's The Beast, baseball apparently was his favorite sport. Played
Really?
catcher, but then
Can you
as he got older, he switched to basketball as his focus.
makes sense?
But
6'5".
then,
That's
as a
Warriors.
sophomore, realized basketball in high school. Realized basketball might not be the plan.
Yeah. Stop growing.
Yeah,
Dude, can you imagine him in the batter's box at 6'5", 285?
with those
No,
arms as
thank you.
well.
No, thank you.
Really trying the trying to make it work, Griff, with the cross chop.
Yeah, that was a point of emphasis for some reason. He has missed every single time with his inside. Oh, that's a what is that's a swipe move. That's like
Yeah,
a double.
you're right.
He's got to figure I mean, this is an interesting tape. He's like trying to figure his game out on the
Yeah,
fly. I
because I
don't know
didn't
what.
see him do any of this
Yeah,
stuff in.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, because Braden Fisk is rushing in this, he was on the American team as well. I watched back again to see if I was missing something because I know a lot of people are raving about his Senior Bowl. I don't think I am missing something. I'm happy to be wrong, but like he has tiny arms. Like this really is a problem. It's not like
Yeah.
Aaron Donald where he's undersized, but he still has okay length arms. Like they're tiny arms. Like he has to get basically head first into a guy's pads to then try and quickly
Mhm.
snatch through him. It's not a thing. Wow. How are we with this tackle aesthetic here? It's a
It's
look, right?
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a look.
Props to the tackle here.
Great rep.
That's like perfect feet on the inside counter. It's like
Unreal. Yeah.
exactly how Coach Paul Alexander talks about it.
Yep.
So not a win for Robinson, but once again shows movement skills at 285 pounds that you rarely see. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he moves like he's 255 in terms of fluidity and coordination,
Yep.
but it's in a 6'5", 285-pound body.
Mm-hmm.
Like his center of gravity is low, repeated movements can string together movements and stuff. His moves aren't landing. I
No.
think watching his actual games, his best stuff was usually like bull rush and then like outside knockdown moves on tackles.
Yeah. So day 2, I think, is where that starts showing up. It's interesting because day 1 he's doing all that kind
There
of
you
like
go.
working it out, and now he's going back to what worked for him.
So counter club, presses outside, and then immediately transitions, hits the counter. Not a
Yeah.
good set from the tackle at
No.
all.
His
That's
former
abysmal.
teammate.
That is yikes from the left tackle. But how much a lot of pass rush production is taking advantage of bad
Yep.
sets. So you'd
You
want
get
him to
one
be
bad set a game maybe, but you got to take advantage.
yeah, and he does, right? So
And so I don't hate the idea, just on the subject of big ends. I think the other factor to mention with the McDonald defense is obviously there's Brent Urban, but there's also Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I know people will say Clowney's a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he brought Jadeveon Clowney to that defense in that he's violent, he's long, he's bigger than your typical 3-4 outside backer. He's almost 270 pounds. But the way he plays against the run is like a much bigger edge. And he's a really, really good run defensive edge. And Seattle last year in nickel, which they ran most of the time, especially when Nwosu got hurt, they had really, really difficult play out their edges. Their edges struggled massively. Adding someone who's slightly bigger, slightly longer, more violent against the run, I think there's real reason to do that. And we'll see Robinson against the run in a second. And they also did like one-on-ones against the run in the American team practice, and he was winning every rep basically. Like that's his wheelhouse. He's very good at that. Up
Hmm.
against Guyton again. That's
Yeah.
his bread and
Yeah.
butter, right? That's what you're
Yeah.
familiar with from the college stuff.
Yeah. That's that. So I mean, I think objectively speaking, it's like a push pull into an arm over kind of, right? Like a
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
snatch.
Snatch and then arm over, yeah.
But then what makes it work is the strength and then like the rotational power and the coordination to just keep his feet going. Like he gets his toes around, his hips around.
Yeah, the way he
When
points these toes.
yeah,
Look at that.
like
Look at that toe point. That's
like
impressive.
his weight isn't too far over like his axis. Like he doesn't like drift too much. He's just controlled. It's controlled, fluid, coordinated movement at 285 pounds. So the play strength is there. We know that, but then he could use that play strength for all it's worth because he's got the coordination to capitalize.
Yeah.
He has a lot of wins like this. So, I mean, he can, and the importance of this is that means he can actually function as a true edge when they go into 4-down nickel, but give the stoutness of run defense there as well. And then also they don't have to sub him off the field when they want to go into their 3-down stuff. He can play 4-eye for maybe a pinch of 3, maybe.
See,
So
that's exactly where I'm at with it. And just
that's
the
for the value.
stylistic difference of him compared to the rest of the types of outside backers Seattle has.
Yep.
And that's his ball. Kind of late into the ball. I think he's thinking about a chop.
That's a hilarious rep. But yeah. I mean, he's like running like a curved bull rush. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, that's real play strength, feet point, isn't it?
Yeah. And because his hips are always sorry, go ahead.
Yo, go ahead. You were going to mention
Well, the reason why he's able to bull rush from an awkward position is that, well, it's not actually an awkward position for him because his hips are always dropped.
Yeah.
He's always in a position to exert force through the ground, right?
Look at that. Look at that angle.
Yeah.
That
And
O-line coaches go crazy when they see their O-line in that position where you're about to uncork the hips.
Yeah. So like LJ Collier rushed to that point his hips would be way too high. He wouldn't be able to power him because he can't access the strength that he has. Here,
Yeah.
Darius can, right? So I don't know. I might, if forced to choose, I might just take Robinson just because I'm curious to see what could be.
But he kept shining for me in these sorts of. I mean, this is rushing a center here with the same like snatch arm over.
That's
I
pretty
just
good
think
bend.
we've got to get him in a spot where the get off starts popping because I didn't see as much of this kind of first step on the college tape.
Yeah. I'll be curious to know what he looks like to go back and watch him, what he looks like in clear pass situations.
Would you know?
Because then it makes you wonder, is he just not keyed up? Is it situational football awareness?
Yeah.
Does he just not know the snap?
Yeah. Well, on that subject,
I
feel bad for Dorlus here because I wasn't as enthused, and I know that we're not. Yeah, I know you had been, but anyway, I'm excited about Robinson right now. So,
hey, you're convincing me. My opinion's changing in real time. Like I still really value Dorlus's bull rush. I think he's an actual viable source of pressure from the inside on day 2. But I like the whole package that Darius is more, I think.
So you can't get more. Oh, thank you so much, X. Thank you so much. You're so good. As we live stream to 360 viewers on X, so can't all be bad. But can you please play my video? Can you do that?
Oh dear, right, how bother.
Don't do that. I want to find a because this is what I was waiting for in the Florida game. So it's first and 10 with 5 seconds left. So you can't get more pure pass than that, right? And he's in a 3-man rush. I should have put the end zone angle first. So he's late off the ball. But he beats the tackle.
Yeah.
With a similar type of move, right?
So like jab step, and then he goes to
similar.
He goes to bull, then quickly abandons it, realizes he can just rip through.
Yeah.
And the quarterback's drifting to him, but I'd say he gets the corner on the tackle though.
Yeah.
And at what depth? How many yards? So it's like at 8, 9, I'd say.
Yeah.
8, 9, and that's fine. Like it's not all a good percentage of your wins are going to be in the deep pocket area, right? Not all of them can be 5, 6, 7. A lot of them are going to be 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
But that's 285 pounds moving like that. I mean, he has the proportions of a 260 guy, and the movements of a 260 guy, just not at the speed of a 260 guy. But he has the movements of a 260 guy with the strength of a 285 pound guy. So that's why it works. He's not going to be a speed rusher, but he's a very intriguing player. It's kind of our Keon White this year, isn't it?
Yeah,
Keon White, I think, is a little more juiced up.
Keon was so much heavier. He looked more like if we're talking basketball, Keon's more like a center, right?
No.
I don't know ball.
Well, I mean, as far as football players go, maybe, but I mean, Keon was what, 6'5"?
Yeah, I know that, but just like body density.
I don't know. I mean, Keon's insanely explosive.
He just felt so much. No, don't get me wrong. He's very explosive, but he felt much bigger, more filled out. I mean, he was like 15 pounds heavier, right?
Yeah, but, I think so.
Robinson just, I don't know. Like he doesn't look. He doesn't look 285 pounds at all, does he?
Well, it's because he's just jacked. He's lean and jacked,
Yeah, but he's like jacked.
Yeah, and it's not all show muscle; it's legit.
Right. Whereas Keon was like, I don't think. No, I don't want to do it. But with how fluid he is, I don't think dropping Robinson in space, like in coverage, would be a complete disaster. And Keon could do it kind of, but
Well, you mean like as an outside linebacker?
Yeah.
In a pinch? Yeah.
But I mean, you don't really want to do it. But
no, I mean he will as part of the sim pressures, as we know, but and the creepers.
So he's rushed an outside path.
Like, look how easy that stance is for him. Like, he sinks so well. Like, it's just natural. That's a good rep.
And this is pass rush plan, right? Because this first rep, he rushes the outside of his teammate. He kind of he's fully turned at this point. And so the next rep, which Griff said was a good rep, then he works the counter.
Look at that lift he gets. Or the separation.
Like, again, he is all from the hips, right?
Yeah, that is sled work. Like feet to hips to a hip extension to arm extension to
get out your what do you call the angle thing in math? Protractor. There you go.
I mean, that is like if you showed that. I'm no kinesiologist, but if you showed that to a kinesiologist, like break down the physics of like the power transfer going on here, they would say this is like perfect. I'm going to show this at my next lecture or something.
It comes from the ground.
Yeah, like he's bench pressing this guy. That's insane. It's awesome traits and very good technique. So, and he's doing that from the edge. So it goes to show the limits of the combine because his testing for edge is horrible, but it's not capturing why he's viable on the edge.
Yeah, and that does happen to these kind of. I mean, he's getting to D tackle size at 285 pounds, right? But it does
Yeah,
really that seems to really happen for the kind of tweener in size guys, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
270 to just below 290. There's the occasional dude where the combine's just not capturing what they're able to put
At
on
that
as a
at that
throttle.
point, it's flexibility, coordination, fluidity, movement skills that will do the rest. Like Michael Bennett didn't have a great combine. I think he had a decent broad jump, but the vertical wasn't there. The 3-cone was bad. The 10-yard split was bad. The shuttle was bad. But it didn't. He had that other dimension of athleticism that the combine doesn't measure. So he's trying to work an outside move there off of.
Gets the slide.
Yeah.
It's a decent rush rep. Ball comes out fast.
So he really is the.
Now, the one thing is his awareness, and this showed up on tape as well in the college games, his awareness of like trap and stuff, like guard disappears, get your eyes inside, condense and squeeze. That should be fairly easy to coach, and he's just trying to show how fast he can get upfield here, but yeah. Anyway, you were saying he really is what, Griff?
He really is this year's Keon White in terms of usage and concept, not necessarily a precise player comp, but
There's the ball.
that's awesome. Boom.
I'm glad you're it's been fun to watch this with you because obviously I was really impressed, and it's good to know that you're seeing similar things to me.
Yeah.
Well, when I tweeted about him, Griff, a lot of people apparently you were nonplussed.
Yeah, but that changed. No. I do have a Darius Robinson tweet. Let me find it.
Oh no!
I said
Imagine
count
having
me
a
in.
tweet.
Darius Robinson actually gives Missouri pass rush from the inside when they play their mint fronts and or out of 3-man rushes against SEC tackles. Count me in. April 7th. I mean, I finally watched him. I was like, oh shit, he's good. But now I think he's even better now.
Yeah, and shout out to there was someone in the chat who, when we mentioned about doing a Senior Bowl tape stuff, they mentioned him as a guy who stands out. I apologize, I can't remember who it was, but you'll know who you are, and you'll be like, yep. So this is first down reps on day 2, so more kind of run concept stuff, but also play action can come in. I mean, his old teammate must be, he's doing him dirty.
That's really good knockback. I mean, he's got full block control.
Now, the other thing, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I like how Nwosu's better off the left, right?
Yeah.
I think Robinson can do either, but generally he's on the right, just in college as well, from what I saw. So
he has some good reps as a left 4-eye.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, Matty, think about it. Like, it's so hard to get, as we know, because we watched the Seahawks struggle with it. It's hard to get a potent 4-man rush out of a bear front or a tight front, right?
Yeah.
And especially to the side where the outside linebacker drops and that 4-eye has to expand to the C gap, or even if they decide to rush the B gap, they still have to expand the tackle to give the 4-man rush width, right? For containment purposes and spacing. He will be that guy that has to expand and actually walk that tackle back out of a mere step stance, arm over into the B gap and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, well, this is
valuable.
Sorry, Griff.
No, go ahead.
Well, this is kind of what you're speaking of in the, he's not going to the 4-eye, but he's playing run, okay? It's first down, he's playing run, he gets a jump set, which is like, it's play action pass pro. But from playing the run, striking back the block, he's able to then get the feet back in the ground, and you can see a glimpse of what would happen if he was a 4-eye, and then he's got more width to play with into the tackle, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the rep where he shoots through. Oh no. Yeah, so that's a win again. On a screenplay, but...
Yeah. Don't know if we count that, but it still shows off movement.
Right. Anyway, so that's kind of Darius Robinson. Yeah, I was very intrigued by that.
I think we're doing the handshake emoji on Darius. Right. So Matty, where would you take Darius Robinson in the draft and be like, okay, that's not an overdraft? And forget about like in what success and like what chronology, like relative to your other picks, like not like, oh, if they take care of this position first, like don't worry about that. Just where would you take him?
Probably end of the first, start of the second, sort of thing.
Really?
Let me see what his yeah, I mean, he had 8.5 sacks last year in the SEC, 14 tackles for loss. So you've got that established production. I mean, yeah, mid-second maybe. But like, it wouldn't shock me if a team does him end of the first,
Yeah. I think
that's the annoying... Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I mean, Lucas Van Ness was a little more explosive.
He was, but like, and he tested like it.
And he went high, right? I think Darius Robinson's a better prospect. But I wouldn't have taken Van Ness in the first, though. I was a minority opinion there. I would take Darius Robinson somewhere mid-second, ideally end of the second.
Yeah. And that's the kind of discussion, really. You do these, and it brings me again nicely to the point about the big ends and positional value and stuff. So the two best dudes in the draft in terms of interior D-line, big end we can group into that are Byron Murphy, who we've looked at, check it out, and Jason Newton or Johnny Newton, who we've looked at, check it out. But they're going to go, you would think, first round, right? Unless there's a medical thing, but first round. Taking them, if you do in your mock drafts at 16, which doesn't seem like too big a reach for either. It's not reach. Some people think Johnny Newton's the best defensive player in the draft. You can make an argument for Byron Murphy there, okay? Doing that when you've got all these kind of intriguing, even like a Michael Hall, who I've really liked his game as well and what he can bring as a pass rush 3 tech. Obviously, he's nowhere near as polished as those two, but he's younger, and there's some interesting things there. Or these big end types who they're still going to contribute, and, particularly like a Darius Robinson, where I think he can play nickel end. I think he can play across the line, really, unless nose, but I think he can do everything else for you. And if he's going to go mid-second round, well, then it becomes, that's drafting, right? But I think there's a lot of intriguing kind of options in this kind of, and it might not be Robinson, maybe he is end of the first round, but it might be, one of these other types of interior defensive line guys, which makes it ultimately in the first round. If you do that at 16, that's crazy. I think you have, with the lack of draft assets that Seattle has, I'm really kind of talking myself into like a little trade down, and maybe you wait out this type of guy until the day 2, Griff, thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So yeah. I mean, I really wouldn't add much. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I've seen someone described Darius Robinson as upright. What?
Maybe just because he's tall, but I mean, he plays low for his.
He's tall. We just seen him like be like. Anyway. Yeah, interesting. So other big end names to keep an eye on. I guess we were going to talk about and look at the tape of Kris Jenkins, but we've run out of time. But in terms of as a profile, I mean, he's a lot of people's defensive tackle 3. But so, and he tested amazing. He's only a junior, so that's something to his advantage. I mean, at the combine, he's 6'2", 299 pounds, 170 second 10-yard split, 30-inch vert, 9'7" broad. Super, super impressive testing, although the agility is obviously not there, but fine. Griff, why is he, in your eyes, why did you lump him in the big ends rather than like defense tackle 3 tech? Obviously,
Who? Darius or
no, Kris Jenkins.
Jenkins? Because he plays so much 4-eye and the weight. He'll play some 3 technique.
Meaning 2-gap experience, right?
2-gap experience. He definitely could play defend the run from the edge, but he's not going to give you much pass rush. He's not a great pass rusher, even from 3 technique, like 3rd and long. He's got a bull rush, and it's not great. I definitely have Dorlus ahead of him. His run defense technique is pretty solid, good foundation. It's just like he's a 3rd rounder, you know.
Really, even with that testing and coming from such a high profile, high exposure defense,
I just don't see it showing up on tape. He's just not that kind of player. He just doesn't have the bag.
Yeah, and to that point, Griff, production-wise, he never really did it, right? 2 sacks in his last 2 seasons, and that was it. Only 4 college sacks, only 8 tackles for loss in his career. And yeah, he only played 2 seasons, but still, like, it's not... oh, I know he played 3 seasons, but only started 2 seasons, I think. So, yeah. Interesting. And watching their tape, like, the guy's popping. I'm like, is that Jenkins? Is that him? Because that guy's good. And it's like, oh, no, that's a different dude than that. So, like, blanking on the name. Who was the guy who's like a day 3 pick who made that incredible cross in the face of 2 pools?
Oh, Cam Good or something like that?
Yes, Cam Good. Nailed it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, let's just take him in day 3 and have Cam and Cam. Anyway. Right, so that's big ends. Hopefully you guys have found that useful. In the comments, I will post in the description, in the comments, I will post a comment with a link to my SeahawksOnTape.com article where you can click on it, and there's more on how Macdonald runs his defensive fronts, the big end, those pictures I showed of the different fronts, they're in that article, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. There's also on the website, I appeared on Cody Alexander's thing talking about Mike Macdonald's scheme, which is like basically a worse version of what I did with Griff, because Griff wasn't there. But Cody knows his stuff, and it was interesting hearing Cody's perspective on what Macdonald's defense will look like in Seattle. I'll also post a link in the comments to Griff's Twitter draft rankings at CMike Spin Moves, where you can follow him. You can follow me at Matty F. Brown. Follow the pod at Seattle Overload, where you'll find out when we're going live, when we're next live. And please do comment down below what you want to see next from us. We have a day to get it done, so maybe guard is a bit optimistic. That being said, we've looked at linebackers, we've looked at big ends, we've looked at defensive tackles. We have to look at guard at some point, because that's the most obvious position for this team right now. Or we'll probably just go, F it, we're going to just do defense forever because we love defense. We've probably got to stop that. We also need to cover Seahawks visits, Seahawks news. We'll be back tomorrow night with something. So please do join us. Thank you everyone for joining live. Thank you, Fats, for your donation. If you want to donate to the show, Super Chat function is available on YouTube, or Stripe link in the donation. We split all our tips from people who've appeared on the show, so 50-50 in this case. Thank you so much for your support. Griff, anything you want to add in there? Any closing wisdom? Anything you want to say?
Shogun's really good. You guys should watch it.
So what's that about then? Is it about the Mitsubishi Shogun car?
Do you actually not know the premise of the show? I don't know what exposure you have or don't have to it.
Is it like U.S. firearms culture? Like show
U.S.
gun,
firearms?
like gun show? Yeah.
Shogun is a Japanese word.
Is it a bodybuilding contest? Oh, right, okay.
Do you know what it's about? Like, do you have any prior...
I can guess.
What do you think it's about?
Is it about the Japanese shogun?
Yes. Yes.
Whoa, that's crazy. They were military military commanders, right? Like rulers. Like the emperor would appoint them to be like rule areas. Is
Yeah,
that accurate?
yeah, but yes, close enough. A real historian will have a very long answer, and I'm sure we'll get
A
one in the
real
comments.
historian,
Um,
buddy.
a real
That is
history
so rude.
appreciator.
I'm a history grad
You are, and
somehow. I spent too
you're
much on
down
the American football part of that.
you're downplaying your own knowledge.
Not
Yeah,
ancient
feudal.
history though. So
Well, it's not necessarily ancient. Well, I mean, it goes back pretty far, but feudal Japan. We're talking medieval period. Feudal Japan. The show takes place in the year 1600, and Portugal and Spain have made inroads trading with Japan that other European countries have not made, and they're trying to colonize and everything. And the English and Dutch and Protestant nations are trying to break the monopoly that this Iberian Peninsula has on Japan. And in doing so, clash of cultures. They learn more about each other and life and the things wrong with each of their respective ways of life and the great things and how they have really more in common than they could have imagined despite all their differences, humanity, etc.
great.
Okay.
So where can you find that? No free ads.
Hulu, FX, whatever.
Okay, I might be able to get that on Disney Plus. Right.
I think you can get on Disney Plus outside of America.
Yes,
I think I
there you
read
go.
that.
There you go.
You guys get
Oh,
more
yeah.
stuff on Disney Plus.
You know what? Just for you, I'm going to watch it. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.